Hello, Steve.
Hey, hey everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Gail, what did they
Hi
do to
there.
you? Is that the eclipse?
It is. I got eclipse damage. Well, I got eclipse damage over my 45 years. That's what happened. Yeah, it's
Oh
it's
man.
fine. It's not like, it's just a spot of concern that was removed.
Mm.
So
Uh, They took a chunk out of my ear some years ago with a spot of concern.
yeah. I'm hoping I just got done this morning. I'm hoping it heals quick because I have a fundraiser to go to with like a kind of semi-formal event on Saturday, and I don't think I can cover this with makeup. I
Go
just
for
don't
sympathy.
know
Go
it'll
for
work.
sympathy.
Oh,
You could put a big nose ring there.
that's right. That's right. I'll just put something else on my face to distract from what's happening here. Let's see. So we are waiting on Jim. We'll give him another minute or two since he is our note keeper. But if he doesn't show up, I'll do double duty.
So, Craig, did you have to come back from Portugal for the eclipse or not even?
I was back in time and we did go see the eclipse.
All right. And not too trafficky wherever you went, I hope.
Oh, we timed it all perfectly. We got up. We didn't leave till like 8:30 in the morning. Got to Waterbury, which is like a half hour this side of Burlington,
Yeah.
and it wasn't too bad. And on the way back, we hit the road at the second that it ended, and we got out in front of everybody. So
Oh, yeah.
a grad student of mine was very close to us, but decided to wait an hour or two before they left, and it took them like 8 hours to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard, we know a bunch of people who had that situation. Yeah.
Yes, I
Now
I
we
was one of them as well.
Oh no.
But it was I don't know. It didn't leave till almost 8. It not like really late actually. Because there was a like, like an after party and at a house I went to in Vermont, and then I'm like, yeah, 8 o'clock. Like the traffic should be cleared by then. No, it was not. Didn't get home till 2 in the morning. It was horrible. It was the worst traffic I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
No, we
went.
made it in less than 4 hours.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Getting back,
that's
yeah.
great.
Dave, you're looking like you're gloating about your
We went to Vergennes, and it was not particularly crowded. I mean, there were plenty of people there, but not crowded. We were able to get a parking space midday, and we hung out in Vergennes for a while afterwards, and then we were staying in Brandon, which is a couple of towns just below Middlebury.
Ah.
So
Nice.
yeah, we didn't have any problem.
That's the way to do it.
You all must be talking about the eclipse.
We are.
Yes.
I wish I had gone into the Northeast Kingdom, because there would have been less cloud. There was a little bit of mist in the in the upper atmosphere, but and the skies were perfectly clear there. But Burlington was as close as I got. So
Yeah, I mean, we saw the high clouds, but it did not impact.
no.
Yeah,
view at
us
all,
too.
So
You might have seen the corona a little bit better though, without the clouds.
I thought the corona was spectacular where we were, but of course,
Ah,
it was the first total eclipse I'd seen. So
Yeah,
Right,
me too.
right, us
compare it to.
Yeah, I know. First and probably last. I don't know. Not
Yeah.
very many of them.
yeah, what you're going to compare it to, yeah.
Where were you, Gail?
Glover, Vermont.
Oh. I thought of going there. Been to Bread and Puppet there over the years, and
Yeah,
thought that would be a good place.
Yeah, it was I was surprisingly moved by the whole experience. I thought this is just not going to be like I didn't expect to be just kind of awed by it, and I was.
Yeah.
I was really
Yeah.
glad that I went. So it would be, I'm already kind of thinking of going to Spain in 2 years, of like, planning ahead, like doing.
We are too. It turns out that the center is going right over this town in northern Spain where my grandmother was born.
Oh wow!
And although we haven't been there in 20 years, my cousin goes there regularly, so I'm at least connected secondarily to a whole bunch of people in town. So we're committed. We're going. That's it.
Oh, great.
Excellent. I'll see you there, Craig.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, his relatives. You've got it made, Gail.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I thought, well, it was going to be 90-something% here. And I'd seen a couple of eclipses in the 90% range. And it was kind of, well, what's the deal? But we decided to go for it. And I mean, there is such a difference between 99%.
Such a difference.
Totally different. Totally
So
different.
different.
Yes, I'm so really glad we did it. And I'm thinking the same thing. So should we go to Iceland? Well, it might be cloudy. Spain, that looks better. But so.
Spain gets less cloud. 10% of the sun, 90% is 10% of the sun, and that's a lot of light. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're all here, so welcome. Let's get started. I'll say the little spiel. So welcome to the what's the date? Oh, April 17th meeting of the MLP Board and Broadband Committee. I'm Gail Huntress, MLP Manager, facilitating the meeting. This meeting is fully remote. Participating also remotely, we have MLP board members Jim Hemingway, Graham Sefton, Steve Schmidt, and Broadband Committee member at large Craig Martin. First order of business is to approve the previous meeting minutes as sent amended by Jim from March 20th.
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving minutes?
Aye.
Hi.
Great. All right, well, let's dive right in. Graham, hut report. We had some excitement at the hut.
We did. Yeah. So what was it, a week ago or something, Gail? When
Oh, yeah, it was exactly a week
Ga-
ago.
yeah, Gail got a call at 7:30 or something from HGE, who monitored the UPS. As it turns out, the temperature alarm in the UPS had gone high, and when Gail got to the hut, I think you said it was 88 degrees in the hut.
Yep, it was 88. It was interesting. The UPS warning is lower than ours. We don't get a call from Simply Safe until it goes above 90. And so we didn't get a pre-warning, but anyway, their UPS went off. They called me. It worked. I didn't even know that the UPS had its own internal communication. That was a surprise to me. So I went up there and just opened the door and got both units running on cool and set the temperature down and waited a while until it dropped. Set the
Run the exhaust fan as well? Did you run the exhaust fan or not? You just reset the exhaust fan, right? You set the
yeah,
reset
I set the exhaust fan lower. It was set at 95. That was kind of our cutoff point of like the Simply Safe was set at 95. The exhaust fan was set at 95. So set that down to 90.
So
But
the exhaust fan hadn't started running.
No.
It hadn't yet because
Okay.
it was set,
Below
higher
normal.
than
Yeah.
than what it was. So anyway, did that, got the temperature lowered, knew that it was okay, and then asked Graham to go and take a look to see what was going on the next day. So I'll let Graham take it away from there.
Yeah. So I looked at in the morning, I looked at so Gail had stabilized the temperature for the hut, and so everyone went to bed. I didn't go in at that point, but in the morning I looked and I saw that from the energy metering, the online energy metering, it showed that it had run a lot of power during the night, and I thought, okay, I should go there straight away and see what is generating, what is going wrong here. Even though I could see from Simply Safe that the hut temperature was holding steady at the 75 degrees or so. So I knew it wasn't a panic, but I wanted to see something's going wrong there. And so when I went there, I found that because Gale had turned on both ACs, that they were working hard against each other at that point. They were both on automatic, and so I set them both to cooling, which this time of the year it makes sense to put them in cooling because the hut never gets too cold now. And I turned one of them off because one of them was sufficient to. No, I didn't turn one of them off. I left them both in cooling. One is now in lead position with cooling to 65, and the other is in follow up with cooling to 75. And the reason when the problem had arisen when there was only one AC running when it wasn't running properly when Gail went there. So it was doing something wrong. It was HVAC unit number 2 was the only one on, and it wasn't working properly, obviously, and it was in automatic at that point. So it seems to work in cooling mode, and like I say, now it's set up so that the second HVAC unit will come in if it doesn't work, and so we can kind of monitor that. But Gail got well, Gail and I talked about it, and who do we want now to be our HVAC service contractor, because we know that we needed to do a new crowd. I won't repeat why at this point, but you all know. And so public PVE, Pioneer Valley Environmental. Gail saw they had good reviews, and so she lined them up, and they came in the very next day, the very next morning, and at that point they were very good. I was there with them for a couple of hours, and they answered questions. Even by the time they got there around 9, they left around midday, and I guess you got an estimate for what they suggested for fixing by 12:30 or something. Is that, yeah? So I was impressed because they also looked at the still unrepaired mouse damaged HVAC unit 2, which still doesn't have the louvers working because it's got the cable that got chewed by the mice a year ago. And even though we asked many times, we never, no one ever managed to fix that. So anyhow, now both units, so they didn't fix anything with the HVAC unit 2, because they're what is the they're well, it was working. It's an intermittent problem, and it's possibly intermittent in automatic mode. It seems to be working, and it has been working for a week now, every time I've looked, in cooling mode. So not sure about that. They have a good diagnostic relationship. They will continue to look at the next time they come. They're going to fix the mouse problem that was damaged still. They're going to look at it more thoroughly. They found that there had been mice in the outside unit as well. There was evidence, at least, of that, which previous group had not identified that. So, so there could be a problem from that. But anyhow, to cut the story a little bit briefly, I realized one of the things that happened. I realized that remember when every place in Shutesbury, owned by the town, that had a generator had an HVAC unit fail under, from surge when the power came back or something, some mysterious thing. But a surge, if you recall, a year ago, 9 months, whenever it was, if a surge that was local to the town hall shouldn't have done anything down at the fire station. And so the other thing that occurred to me, and also when the power came back in the hut, there was a UPS rectifier problem. If you vaguely remember that, as Shell found and had to replace something. So the thing that made me think about that last Tuesday, I guess it was there'd been a power failure just a few days before that, and once again the generator had come back, and suddenly the HVAC unit that had been connected to the power had not. It was doing something weird. So it's circumstantial evidence, but it's a few days and mysteriously odd that. But it did remind me that one of the things with generators when they come back on, if they have no break in the transition, then you have the utility power running and 60 cycles, and you have the generator that's running at 60 cycles. And if there's no break connection, then the automatic transfer switch is supposed to try and match up the phasing of that, so there's no interruption. But they can't do it perfectly. And with spinning equipment, such as HVAC units and compressors and fan units, they're running in that split second of changeover. There's the potential for them to have phase differences and surge stuff and all that. So anyhow, I tried to look to see what ATS switch we had exactly, to find out if there is. I know there will be the option of having a 30-second delay, and so that's. But I couldn't find the part number because the bill that we got from Pechoric said that the ATS had been installed under a different receipt, and so I couldn't see what the part number was. And when you look in the hut, you look at the ATS and you can't. It's got a cover that doesn't really reveal much about what the part number is. So I guess there must have been a different invoice from Pechoric around March in 2019 that I didn't see or couldn't see. I don't know whether Steve or Gail, if you were able to look that up, but
Graham,
Yeah.
the all that material should be in the binder that is in the town hall in our filing cabinet. There's
Okay.
all the hut materials. There's a big binder, and so the manuals for all the various hut equipment should be in there.
Okay,
That's where.
Okay, well, I'll
that's
look
where we
there as
put
a
it, so,
last resort.
yeah.
If you just Google Pachoric receipts or invoices, there must be another invoice that had a specific installation of the ATS. I don't know why he didn't do it with the generator, but he didn't do it with the generator. So Gail, if you want to just glance in your invoices from Pachoric, the first invoice had gone to the town administrator, so she forwarded it, so it might be not from Pachoric, but it might be from Becky. So anyhow, I'll look in the file.
Hold on, Graham. Let me help me understand what I'm looking for here. So
The automatic
what
transfer
is
switch.
the invoice that I'm looking for would be from 2019 in the spring when the hut was being installed and built,
Correct.
and the invoice would be for a what does ATS stand for?
ATS automatic transfer switch, and Pachoric looks like he might have sent it to Becky initially, and I would think she would have forwarded it to to one of us or to you, and it'll have a part number. Now his generator invoice specifically says all the parts that he installs, and then specifically says the ATS is not in this invoice because it got installed, under another invoice. So.
Okay.
And I'll dig through the file if
Graham, I'm quite sure it is a Kohler ATS.
yes, it has to be. Yeah, it almost has to be.
Well, there is another brand out there that's specifically does,
but it's nice when Kohler, they like to talk to each other.
But I know that Pachoric wanted to use the Kohler one. Graham, the unit 2 that's problem is, which is the one that we just had replaced because of the failure?
Unit 1.
That's
unit
unit
number 1.
one. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is unit 2. I mean, I think you may be onto something here, Graham. This would be
well, it's odd that it happens after every and we've had other people who've had problems.
But of course you've got a couple things here. I mean, you've got motorized equipment, and so you got the phasing with electric motors, but you've also got sensitive electronics. I mean, I was just at my nephew's house last winter, and the heat wasn't working, and it was because there was a problem with the motherboard. I'm thinking, you never used to have a motherboard on a furnace,
Right. Oh yeah.
And so I think, you got sensitive electronics here, and a surge can hurt that also.
Now, Pioneer Valley Equipment did respond to that problem by saying that their standard installation puts a surge protector at the connection point to each of those units, and that was in their proposal to Gail. I think they said they were going to do that as
so
a
we
proposal.
don't currently have separate surge protectors on the
no, and they said
okay.
that's such a good idea that it's silly not to have them. So so we'll be getting that as a next I think you said you'd approved the proposal from PVE, right? Yeah, so that'll be coming as soon as they have the parts. I'm sure.
It's not going to be cheap. It's going to be about $1,600 to fix that louver, the mouse chew louver, and then install surge protectors on both of them. But I think it's a great idea because this is just going to keep happening, and we need to protect those very delicate HVAC systems. So we'll get it done.
Graham, just to understand how those HVAC units work. So you have different modes. You could put it in heat, you could put it in cooling, or you could put it in auto.
Correct.
And so as auto, you give it parameters. If it's below so much, go into heat mode. If it's above so much, go into AC mode, cooling mode.
Yeah, it changes from one to the other.
And that seems to be what's not
Yes, it wasn't able to do that.
And that's
And,
why
you know,
it, and that's why it overheated.
well,
Because it,
that's what it was in that mode when it went wrong, and it was and from looking at the power track, it started doing something crazy at about 6 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock, the temperature had gone up enough in the hut for HGE to report, to Gale. So it looked like it only took an hour to go nuts.
which is
And
curious,
then
because not like it was real hot. Well, I don't.
and then when because it wasn't working correctly in auto, Gal turned on the other machine in auto, and the other one held it down, but they were fighting then. And when I came in in the morning, one was cooling and one was heating, and you can see that you can see that happen during the night. It just took a lot of power to do that. So
Because the weather we've had has been up and down a lot, so I can't think. Was it a hot day?
it doesn't. No, it made no sense whatsoever. I will send you later the months-long energy track. It just shows, the normal power is just goes up, just up and down. It hardly ripples, and then you get to this event the last week, and I did a screen save on it, so I'll send you 2 pictures to see that.
I mean, it is a little curious that it
Yeah.
got so hot so fast.
I know. Yeah. Went up in an hour. Well, I don't know when it really started going up, but you can see on the power graph that there was an hour of something using a lot less energy, a lot more energy, and that energy seems to have just gone into the hut. So yeah. So anyhow, that was I would say that when I find out what the HVAC ATS is, when I find out what the ATS is and what its options are, we'll probably we can talk about it again, and we'll get Pechoric to if it's a simple option to switch, it may be that there's a piece of hardware that has to be the switching mechanism might have to go, but it is a classic thing that and it can happen at the beginning of, even more so at the beginning of a power failure, where you get 2 seconds or 3 seconds when the emergency generator doesn't pick up the load, because it takes a few seconds to start and stabilize its own, and at that point you can still have motors that are spinning as generators in equipment, in compressors and fan units, and they can be acting like generators, and then you get the emergency generator slams into that like a truck, and so that's it's a good idea if you don't have to, if you're not in a hospital where you worry about lights going out and people dying under the scalpel, then it's a great idea to just wait 30 seconds at least.
Yeah. Looks like Jim has a question.
Yes, I was wondering, Gail, whether HG&E or Sheld has any recommendations as to more reliable units than this pair of HVAC units that we have. I mean, they just don't seem to be very reliable. I mean, I'm not surprised, because as you said, compressors don't like transitions, short-term transitions where the power drops out for a second and then comes back on again. Try unplugging your refrigerator when it's running sometime for a second, and then plug it back in again and see what happens. And many of them will just sort of lurch and stop and groan and moan and do all kinds of weird things. So, but somebody must make one that can withstand this kind of, I guess you'd have to call it abuse from our power system. But I was wondering whether they might have any suggestions as to what units they have found to be completely reliable despite all the power failures that we have.
Yeah, they haven't I haven't asked, but they haven't offered anything. if I remember right, and maybe you guys remember, we did something a little bit unusual in our hut by actually installing mini splits. That's not the normal way that these units are temperature controlled. That there's, I don't remember what it was, but we kind of did out the math and said, why are we, installing this kind of like archaic HVAC system when there's something more modern here? And we decided to go with a dual unit solution to this. And does anybody remember what the other option is that many of the other towns used for their huts?
Just to go ahead.
HVAC, and it would have the same problem because, like Jim says, compressors hate having the power slammed on and off. It's likely to damage a compressor.
My dad used to repair them, and yes, it is the compressor. So any technology built on a compressor is going to have this challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So therefore, letting it just relax for 30 seconds or a minute between the power. And as we all know, the hut's got UPS capacity for at least an hour, so nothing's gonna. If you were in the hut, the lights would go out. It's not a big deal.
Well, the UPS is for the electronics.
Right. The UPS is
not for the.
The UPS, yeah, you're right. Yeah, for just the active equipment, and not for the lights, not for the HVAC, and not for
So a question we could ask an electrician: is there some sort of a device you can put in front of a HVAC unit that says when you sense a power glitch, shut down for 2 minutes and then come back on again? Right? There might be something like that, right?
There absolutely are. Craig, yeah. In fact, big equipment places, they actually just they stage. They have a staging thing. I can't remember the term, but it's delayed return of various things. So the load is shared.
Oh, for that reason, yes. That's
right. one of the
reasons. So our electrician should know about this, and we should just ask how much it would cost.
Yeah. Highly recommended to do that.
Shut
them down. When there's a glitch, shut them down for a minute or two, and then let them come back on again.
Which raises the question of why don't the AC units have this as a built-in feature?
Yes,
it's because they're heat pumps and the small HVAC systems that get put in places like this are just like what you do for home, and homes don't typically have emergency generator. Usually the power fails, and you might have emergency generator capacity, Craig, but most houses,
no, but homes do have power glitches, right?
No, they're getting more of it now.
And more homes have emergency generators too. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Because the power is becoming less reliable, or we're more dependent on it. I don't know which, but
the weather's becoming less reliable as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so action item for that. So should I ask Pachorik if there is an option for some kind of piece of equipment that will shut down the power to our mini splits in the case of power fluctuations?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Or otherwise protect.
Yeah.
But we're getting these surge protectors put on them. Is that gonna?
We'll do a fair bit of it. 90. That'll do 90% of it.
I'd be the surge protectors. I don't think is the answer. I think shutting them down for a minute and then letting them come back on again is the way to go. I would invest in that proposal rather than the surge protectors.
That is my understanding as well.
Yeah. Both is not a bad proposition. If their standard system has a surge protector right there, then there are other surges that as we know, lightning and stuff that'll come along the power lines. So I reckon their suggestion of surge protection is a good idea as well. But yeah, I agree. We want to get some timeout sort of option as well.
Great. And would that kind of thing, it would be the Pechoric electrician, or is that something that we should actually ask our new HVAC vendor about? Is this an electrician thing or an HVAC person thing?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could just ask both.
yeah. You can ask the HVAC. You can ask the HVAC people. I think it's probably a little bit. It's something that Pechoric definitely would know about and understand. Because, but for if PVE mostly does houses domestic, then they might not have an electrician that. Yeah, ask PVE.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. All right. I will do that.
but aren't we having looking up what the ATS is to see if there's a way to have Pechoric either change the program on that or install something so that it leaves the power down until it's stabilized? Wouldn't that accomplish what we're trying to do?
That would get to 99%. The
Yeah.
only thing that won't get is, as Craig acknowledged, the power bumps. So the situation where the power drops just for 20 seconds, 10 seconds, switching gaps, whatever it is that sometimes happens. They don't happen very often, but the generator doesn't come on. The power bumps. I'm not sure. I guess it's worth asking if power bumps are not a problem for these sort of units, then the ATS can solve the problem. So,
Graham, how about an AC line conditioner for both units? I mean, I swear by them. I have them here on all my electronics, and I've had lightning hit the tree right outside my house and blow everything out, and everything that was in back of those line conditioners kept on running, and I swear by them.
is that like where you're running an inverter?
No. Well, it's a ferro resonance circuit. They have a big transformer and a big capacitor in there, and if the voltage drops or goes up or down, they regulate that. But they protect my delicate electronics and always have, and every installation I've ever seen that uses them has been extremely reliable, and for $150, it would be very good and worthy protection, I would think.
I think that for something that can drive an AC unit, it's going to be way more than $150.
Yeah,
it's a much bigger amp load.
Well, they make them in 10 amp, 15, 20 amp sizes.
Right.
So I mean, there's no problem there. You just have to get the right size.
Right.
Let's go with whatever Pechoric and or
Yeah.
PVE's electrician recommends. Because that does sound a great thing for your setup, because it's like a very very capable surge protector, isn't it? What you're proposing? Yeah. But if power interruptions are the problem that we're dealing with, then that your power conditioner doesn't carry you over power gaps, does it?
No, it's just for conditioning the line against all sorts of bumps and God knows what else.
Yeah. No, let's figure the let's figure it's the gaps in power and the sudden returns that we should be looking at right now, because that seems to be the
I think that the 1 minute shutdown, in other words, that would be the way to go.
Yeah. Oh, Gail, if you if they talk gobbledygook to you, I'm happy to consult with you on whatever they whatever they suggest. They put it in writing, then we can talk about it.
I love help navigating the gobbledygook.
Maybe a conference call would be the way to do it.
Yeah, I think I'm
we can
gonna
start
start
off
with
conference call.
email so we can get it in writing with you know, part
good.
numbers and recommendations, and then if a further
Yep.
conversation is needed, I'll pull Graham in. Speaking of gobbledygook, Graham, we've been talking about this, I've been simultaneously searching through Pechoric invoices.
Yeah.
And is it a SE transfer switch?
Yes, he probably would have called it if that was like $1,000 or $2,000 or 3,000. It's that could be an SE transfer switch.
Okay.
Why
right,
did
I'll
he
make note
not
of
put
this
it
one.
in? It's a 2019 event, right? The reference you're saying.
It is. I'm searching through the files and also
Yeah.
for that certain time period. And I
Yeah,
found
yeah.
I found a quote, but not the actual invoice that
Yeah.
includes the thing. So, all right, great. I will
Yeah.
keep up that search.
Yeah, it's got to be more than $1,500 and less than $5,000. I don't know
Okay.
I don't know what a transfer switch installed costs. So.
All right. Let me pull up the meeting notes here again. All right. All right, so maintenance and service. Last month, for the month of March, we had more tickets than usual, a surprising amount. We had 72. Normally we hover around 45. There was an ice storm in the middle of that, so that can account for some of the items. But Graham went through and figured out of those 72, there's 45 tickets for internet and phone outages and 18 for just customer support and admin billing types of things. So there's also quite a few tickets that were follow-ups of the same people, of like the same person called like 2 or 3 days in a row asking for to see if their issue was solved or not. So I think this month is anomaly, but it's something I want to keep an eye on. Because if people are calling multiple times to get the same issue solved, then tech support may not be doing a wonderful job.
I could imagine that during a storm time that probably things do wait longer, and also if people are in black holes and can't phone except so they kind of end up in a bit of a black hole communication wise, yeah, so
yeah, it's one of our biggest challenges when somebody's internet goes out, is they're like, there's no way to reach, you can't schedule an appointment, you can't reach them, you can't do anything.
Exactly right. Yeah. Who do you complain to when you can't, when no one can hear you?
Yeah. All right, let's see. Financially still doing well. We have about 61,900 in, we'll say, profit currently. So we are looking good for the end of the year, even with these extra expenses of the line moves, which, by the way, I still haven't gotten the final bill for. Our contract with New Salem is finally done. That was quite the project, but it's done, it's signed. They are off and running. Let's see, I've been in touch with Steve Sullivan, our new DPW head, who's also our new tree warden, to do the annual tree look over. And so he'll try to do what the tree warden's supposed to do, which is get problem trees taken care of by National Grid, and then anything that they won't do that he's going to try to take care of. There's a stretch of the Pelham Hill Road in the 300s where power lines don't run, that I guess is becoming more grown over, that they do want to take care of. And they do have a budget for tree warden work on private roads, which was interesting to me, because I didn't think that that's how that would work, but they apparently have a budget for that. So I'm gonna wait and see what he comes back with, and see just kind of what they're willing to take care of. And probably talk about some kind of cost splitting thing with them for any large projects that don't fit within their budget or really just benefit us, that aren't a road hazard, but things on our list that need to get taken care of.
And Gail, does Steve know how to call on or connect with National Grid or Verizon on getting trees dealt with? Obviously not in those areas where there's no power line, but he presumably has picked up on that as well, right? So you can ask him.
Presumably, as the tree warden in my email, I said, you know, please look over this list, mark anything that you can get National Grid to take care of, and
Yeah,
anything not, then we'll do. So he
Yeah,
didn't
okay.
he didn't say what's National Grid doing. So I assume
Okay,
he
yeah.
understands what I'm talking about.
He must have found them, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So our progress on the digital equity grant is moving, although not fast, as you can imagine. I'm meeting with FERCog about once every 2 weeks. And we've got the draft of the survey done, kind of the rough draft. So next steps are that it's going to be produced in actual survey form. And then I'll solicit feedback from some of our town stakeholders, like all of you, probably Marianne at the library. I'm just going to ask if any of the select board wants to give us feedback on it. Just to flag, is there anything else on the survey that we should be asking about that we're not? And then we're going to try to get it out to people around like the beginning of summer, before everyone kind of, you know, goes on summer vacation things. And Jim had asked, how are we going to get people to actually do it? And I'm actually not so concerned about getting people to do it. We still have a lot of goodwill in town when broadband asks, some people can, you know, to do something, that they do it. When, you know, when I ask people to do the survey that the state sent out, we had the highest response rate of any community in the entire state.
Wow.
That the highest state. Oh, I can't remember if I shared this story with you guys, but for a while people were sitting around MBI saying, who's this provider Shutesbury Net? We've never heard of them. And we have 500 responses from people, and they had like, you know, 40 from Verizon. So it was pretty great.
It was ever thus that MBI didn't have a clue what we were doing out here.
Yeah.
And Gail, when you mention in your promoting the questionnaire that it'll get money to Shutesbury, I'll bet that'll help. That motivates people around here, doesn't it? So, as it should.
Yeah, and I'll explain all that to people about you know, that the reason we're doing this is so that we can get money for the town. And our results, it's not going to be the quantity of results. Like, you know, even if we only had 50 people respond, it's not that MBI would say, well, you don't get any of this money. It's just the more people respond, it will make our case stronger for getting that 70,000 that's been reserved for us. And Jim, you also asked if this results of the survey matter about do the results of the survey matter in some way that would affect how the state grants us? Yes. The survey is how the money gets spent. We have to prove it out in data form of where are our digital equity gaps. And when we prove this through the survey, then we can get access to that money and come up with a grant plan of how we're going to use the money to close those gaps. So it does matter. And I am, well, as you noticed, I seeded the question, the survey with a lot of questions to try to help us understand if our routers are adequate, because that's kind of the thing that we really, I think, would like to use this on, but we need to prove it out. So that's yeah, that's how we'll do it. Yeah, we'll just do it, you know, a town-wide marketing plan like we've done with other broadband pushes, asking townspeople to do things. And I'm thinking of adding a question onto the survey of just asking people straight up, like, if we get a digital equity grant, how do you want to use it? Just go ahead and asking them and having, you know, what would be your top usage? And it could be like, you know, temporarily lowering rates, or a new router in your home, or you know, a new or reduced cost device for you. Just ask people.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. So I'll just add that in. And yeah. So let's see, anything else on my list here? Nope, that's it. That's all we have on our agenda for today. Does anybody have anything else?
What?
No?
Okay,
You
Graham,
go
then
first,
Steve.
Steve. Oh yeah, just Steve, I blabbed a lot. You go first.
Go ahead. Oh, well, I was
Okay.
just gonna say, we've got town meeting coming up. Are we, you know, are we all set for town meeting? Both our presentation, Gail, you all set with presenting the budget?
Yeah, there's some back and forth with Becky about getting the correct budget into the warrant again of so I have not seen a final version of it, but I gave her a Word document appropriate formatted budget so that she wasn't copy and pasting from Excel. So I hope that did the trick.
Well, when it gets printed this time, sit down and, you know, double check it. If you want to, like, you know, send me a copy and we can both look at
Yeah.
it, make sure that the correct thing is presented on the floor of town meeting. Because if it's wrong, it's very easy to get up there and with the
Right.
correct one and ask to be amended to what it is. But if, you know, a bunch of figures are there, it's happened, it's been wrong, and we haven't gone through line by line. So whoops, they transposed this, so they flipped this in and it gets voted in incorrectly. Then it's kind of a nuisance to get it corrected later. So
Totally. Yeah, we will yeah, check the final version and make sure all the numbers are right. Yeah. But yes, I am prepared to go on the 27th and talk about it and hopefully have not a what was it? Was it 9 hours last year? It was so long.
Ooh.
Yeah.
do you know where we are on the agenda?
I don't. Again, I have not seen the
Yeah.
final version of the warrant, so I have no idea. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they keep changing. I think we're more or less in the middle someplace.
Okay.
They keep changing the order. They've been moving things around back and forth. At least that's the latest. This school problem with the four town school is a huge problem, and that's causing all kinds of trouble with the order and the numbers and everything else. So
Okay. And oh, I saw something that said the meeting was in the elementary school gym. Is that-
I saw that too, that for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first time
it's-
we're going back inside.
yeah, we're going back inside. That's true.
Do we need to do anything with
Oh, right.
Wi-Fi?
Or the PA
No.
system.
Yeah, their lousy PA system, and I don't know about their Wi-Fi. No, there's nothing much we can do about the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It is
Well-
what it is.
Well, we could either convince them to open up a public one, or we could let them plug our router into their system, and then we could offer the same service that we did
It's
outside.
It's a good idea.
Jim,
I
you're
think
very,
that would be totally.
I let
that would be
sleeping,
totally doable.
sleeping
That's
dogs
the royal
lie.
we. That's the royal we could do that.
Right. Yeah. Does anyone know anyone? Does anyone know anyone in the principal's office or the secretary of the school?
Yeah,
I don't know
I can
anybody
reach out
there.
to the tech person there, Debbie
Okay.
Lee, who
Oh, it's still
I
Debbie. Okay.
yeah, well, it was last time I had contact with the school, which was in the last year. So I'll reach out about yeah, town meeting internet access.
And ask if Debbie is. You could ask gently if any maintenance has been done on the PA system because it didn't work very well at the special town meeting. Yeah, horrendously, in fact. So it
Yeah,
looked
that was
like
pretty bad.
it looked like it had two good channels and the rest were horrendous. So
Yeah, that's really not our problem.
no, it's not. But yeah, you might just remind someone that it should be fixed because it'll be our problem as we sit there listening to squeaks, whistles, and yeah. So, um, and so yeah, just if you're done, Steve, the just to catch up on a follow up on the library. Marianne Antonelis asked me to come up with the Wi-Fi in the library arrangement that'll work for a building that's 100-foot long and 30-foot wide and one floor, and also where to run Cat6 cable for wired Ethernet, and so I did. It only needs a gateway router and two mesh Wi-Fi's on the inside, because the cladding on the building is slate, half-inch thick slate. The Wi-Fi leakage from the building might not be good enough to do outside. So I've also proposed two outside exterior Wi-Fi access points, wireless access points, WAPs, and because when I proposed that and their designer came back and said, "Oh well, it's a wet location. You need, the receptacles out there would be in a wet location." And I said, "Well, we'll make those locations, if they're needed at all, power over Ethernet." So anyhow, that yeah. So that's no big deal. Marianne was very enthusiastic about the idea of having managed routers because she's a managed router for the library, because she has had router problems at home and she's had router problems at the library. You might have even got to help. She said, Craig, you might have helped her with a router problem at the library.
A long time ago. Yep,
No.
I did.
Yeah, she hates having to call on people like you and me and whoever, and so for $2.50 or whatever a month, she was very excited to upgrade to managed router. So therefore that also does the U6 with U4s for mesh extension for the routers. So I asked, what's his name, Steve Abraham, what the licensing arrangements are in that situation. I wanted to check that the mesh extenders didn't also. It wouldn't make sense to me that they should also have a licensing fee as much as the gateway. And he said he didn't think they did. But what he did say, and Gail, I'll kick the ball to you for taking the conversation further with him, is he said that they haven't yet come up with an agreement with Sheld on how to do managed routers in Shutesbury. So it could be, and I think Sheld once mentioned it, it could be a relationship with Calix, with the money collected by Sheld, and the money goes to Calix, or it could be Sheld does it. As we know, as Craig knows, all of the managed routers have to be under the same subnet. And so it's one subnet that is either, that Sheld has to manage that. But anyhow, that is a detail that Sheld hasn't yet got in place. It may be because there's extra effort that they're not compensated for in having managed router. I don't know. So I'm not sure what the subtlety and the nuance is of that. But you
Okay.
start talking to Steve Abraham first, I guess. We've got plenty of time before the library's going to be installing a
And
network.
just a question, who is Steve Abraham?
He's a sales engineer for Calix.
Calix, okay.
Where he came and met us with Peter, Pete, I think someone, Peter Johnson. So those were the two Calix people that we dealt with. Steve was one of them.
Way back when.
Way back.
Okay.
Way back.
Yeah, so last time I talked to Sheld about this and how we would handle the licensing and the annual, or the rather monthly fees for this, that it was just going to be a pass-through cost, and that Sheld would be the it would cost the same as what they charge for each of their customers for it, and what I guess I guess I don't understand is if we would be paying Calix directly for that, or if it would all go through Sheld. The other thing that I am a bit concerned about with this is the portability of it. Once you get routers into a location that is owned by an ISP, that's your ISP forever and ever until you decide to replace those routers, which is something that happened to Wired West. They can't leave. They can't leave Westfield Gas and Electric unless they shell out, hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace all their routers. So I don't want that to happen to us. Sheld is, doing a great job. We really like them. They're a wonderful ISP thus far. And if that changes in the future, I want the flexibility to leave. Or if,
I think there are ways of doing that. When you think about it, you can do everything with networks. So I think if you raise that as an issue that we want to avoid, we won't proceed if we're locked in. So there would be some way of doing a subnet that is Shutesbury subnet that can be moved around. I mean, there's ways of doing everything in networks. Yeah, no one wants to be locked in forever. I mean, that would be that is obviously a problem that someone didn't anticipate in Wired West, and I don't blame them. It's not something that would have popped into my head of, oh wow, but now we know we're not going to go down that path.
This wasn't a Wired West fault. Wired West didn't want to originally be part of WG&E anyway.
Okay.
But all the towns jumped in, and I think some towns set up the parameters, and then after that, everybody had to do the same.
Yeah. That we're at the point where we're not going to jump unless it suits us to jump. So therefore, Sheld will have some way of doing it, or Calix will have some way of doing it between them. They'll know how to do it that doesn't lock our routers to something forever. Yeah, so I don't know what that is because that's not my specialty. But people can change ISPs, and subnets can do it all in one lump. So
Yeah, you would think so. Last time, but we'll figure it out. There is when I talked to Lee Masters at Sheld about this, he said, you actually can't do it in a lump. You can do it manually, one by one.
Even with subnet being
he said it was actually super complicated and very problematic. It's not that you can't do it, it's just that. But anyway, the bottom line is we have to be able to switch, even if it's built into our contract that they have to manually switch people. you know, for us to understand what the lift on that would be.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So we would get a price going in of how much it costs to get out, and if that
Yeah.
price and a guaranteed, a contractually obligation from them, and then we'll know what that price is, and if that price is too high, then they'll be whistling in the wind, because they'll be proposing something that's not going to fly. So yeah, okay, we can. There you go.
Yep.
You can start off with Sheld, and I'm happy to join. I'm happy to join a conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So just so you know, for all of you, like how I'm thinking about this router decision and going forward, we know that we're going to need some managed routers at the library. It'd probably nice to get them in the town hall. You know, maybe all of our town buildings. Is that I am just kind of sitting on this for right now, waiting for the results of our townwide survey that's happening with digital equity to come in, because that's going to gauge for us what the need is out there, and if this is something people will pay for and want it. And I feel like we can't really make a decision on this without more information about what the, for better word, what the customers will want and what they're going to pay for. And if, you know, how many people want this. So I'm sitting on it till we have more data, and then when we get that, we can kind of pick up this conversation with the goal of by the end of this year, having a move forward plan with the routers, whether it means replacing everyone's with a newer model, non-managed, getting managed routers, having some managed and some unmanaged routers out there, but just knowing what we're doing.
Okay, when's the library supposed to be finished? Does anyone know the library schedule for construction? It must be more than 9 months away, right?
Oh, I'm thinking
Oh,
it's
yeah.
I'm
It's
thinking
a
it's like a
long-
year and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So,
And they don't even have estimates for
well, they haven't put the bid documents
Ah.
out yet, for sure. Yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I guess the library's not breathing down on there. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have. Anything else?
Yeah.
Steve?
Let me get back to old technology here. Any resolution on the waterproofing, freeze-proofing of the hut door lock?
Yes, excellent question. So I did find the door manufacturer, the lock manufacturer rather, and sent it to Graham. And Graham, any more information on that?
Yeah, with going away and with HVAC stuff and whatever, and also with the problem, cooling off. The manual, I think, Gail, you mentioned that they didn't even see it as a possible problem, or they don't talk about doing anything about it. So therefore, it's a rare event. It's on my list, but I
Okay,
figured
just wondered,
But
it's
as soon as
such-
as soon as I see what they want, then I'll tell you, Steve.
I like technology like that as opposed to
Right, yeah.
the other technology we're dealing with.
It's
Yeah,
reminded of
there's-
safe cracking.
Yeah, right. There's
Totally
nothing.
mechanical.
Yeah, there's nothing in the whole troubleshooting section about the locks that mentioned any kind of freeze problem. Another thing that I was
Because they
thinking
never
of,
I one in Shutesbury before.
yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe.
One thing I was wondering about is you know how when on the lock, like if with other types of locks, like if you press the buttons too many times, they stop working, where they don't take any more numbers and then you have to reset. I am wondering if that perhaps happened on the hut, where they press too many buttons, and then to reset it, you have to turn the handle, and then that's what allows the buttons to be accepted again, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe it wasn't a freeze issue, but they inputted the code wrong, and because it wasn't that it wasn't that the buttons were stuck when I pressed them, it's that there was no click through on them. They moved, right? They moved, but there was no click through. And I was wondering if maybe it wasn't frozen, but whoever was at the hut tried to enter the code and it didn't work. And they tried to enter the code and it didn't work. And then the button stopped working. They go, oh, it's frozen. And they just stopped and walked away. When I went back, I, inputted the code and it didn't work. And then they had told me it was frozen. So I'm like, oh, it's still frozen. I breathed on the lock and then jiggled the handle. That reset the buttons.
Breathing
right?
is
And so it's
hard.
like a red
Really-
herring. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not, it wasn't frozen at all. It was just a bad input. And then, anyway,
Yes.
it's,
That
it's
makes
one of
sense.
my
That
theories on
makes a
that.
great deal of sense. And that would explain why it's not in the manual as a troubleshooting problem. I'll bet you're right, because when you think about it, how much heat can you transfer when just breathing on, I mean, it's
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. As we know, if you put your tongue on it, you would have just frozen your tongue to it and nothing would have changed.
Right. The day I call you guys to come rescue me because my tongue has been frozen to the hut is the day when I get to retire.
Okay. Right. Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting it as troubleshooting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Gal.
Yeah. So actually, Graham, next time you're at the hut, could you try to reproduce the error by
Yeah,
just like pressing
that's a
random
great-
buttons
Yes.
and then seeing if then none of
I
the
love
buttons
that
work?
idea. I love that idea because we do have a mechanical key as a backup, don't we? So,
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And
That's right,
then
it
and
is.
then
Yeah.
so there's no catastrophic failure here.
Yeah.
no.
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 Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Next meeting date?
Yep, the next meeting date is May 15th.
Okay.
And I will be making my annual migration out of Shutesbury to my transient life for the summer.
Back under the bridge.
Yeah, back under the bridge, back in the van down by the river. For around the let's see, Memorial Day, which is the 25,
27th.
26, but basically June, July, and August. I will return to town periodically to take care of business, but I won't be based here for the summer.
Gail,
right,
as soon as
Mhm.
I'm in and out in the next few weeks, as soon as PVE gives you a date on maybe just hand them to me for scheduling the PVE people.
I will.
So,
Yeah. I there's no need for me to be the
yeah.
intermediary.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will.
That'll be good.
All right. Well, I'll see some of you at town
Okay.
meeting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.